The first time I saw the smoke curling up from my fields, it didn't hit me right away like my brain couldn't process what my eyes were screaming. I was hauling back from the co-op in my beat-up Chevy, a Tuesday ritual I'd kept for 7 years since I left the fire station and took over my uncle's soybean farm out on Miller's Bend. The morning had been crisp, the kind of cool that makes you think harvest is going to be a breeze, until I rounded the curve and saw that gray haze hanging over my crops like a bad omen. By the time I got closer, my gut knew something was wrong. That wasn't some neighbor burning brush, no. This smoke was black, thick, pissed off, spiraling up from the north edge of my field, right where it butts up against the fancy Willow Grove HOA. My dog, Rusty, started whining low in the passenger seat, his ears pinned back, and that's when I floored it, the truck rattling like my own heartbeat. I didn't even park properly, just threw in gear, half skewed in the driveway, and bolted toward the field. What I saw stopped me dead. Flames, not the lazy kind that flicker over grass, but hungry, roaring tongues eating through my soybeans like they had a personal grudge. The north plot, my best yield, was going up in seconds, turning green to ash faster than I could blink. And there, just beyond my chain-link fence, stood Linda Harper, arms crossed, cool as you please in her pressed white blouse, like she was watching a fireworks show. No phone in her hand, number 911 call, just her staring like my livelihood was her evening entertainment. I yelled through the smoke, my voice half choked. "You call this in?" She tilted her head, slow, like she was sizing me up, and said, "Isn't that your job, Tom? You're the fireman, right?" Her tone was sharp like a knife wrapped in a smile, and I swear my fist clenched so hard I thought my knuckles would pop. But I didn't snap, not yet. I ran back to the truck, grabbed the old radio from the glove box, and called it in, my voice steady from years of practice. "This is Tom Wheeler. Got a fire tearing through the north soybean field off Miller's Bend, near Willow Grove. Send engines now." By the time the first fire truck screamed up my drive, the blaze had chewed through half an acre. My irrigation ditch slowed it some, but the August heat was like pouring gas on it. The chief, Mike, a guy I trained back in the day, hopped out, scanned the flames, then followed the smoke trail with his binoculars. "Origin's right by the fence," he said low, like he already knew what I was thinking. I nodded, my jaw tight. "Check the other side." He didn't ask questions, just started barking orders, hoses rolling out, my old fire brakes holding just enough to keep the barn safe. 20 minutes later, the fire was out, but the damage was done. I walked the scorched edge as the smoke cleared, my boots crunching ash, and there was a melted propane canister, the kind you'd grab a hardware store for a backyard grill, half buried in my dirt. Not mine. Never was. I bagged it with a gloved hand, my mind racing. Then I saw the footprints burned into the grass on Linda's side of the fence, right where it meets her perfect lawn. The crew noticed too, murmuring, pointing at the trail leading to her rose bushes. I didn't say her name out loud, but I felt it, that slow burn in my chest. Not just anger, something sharper, clearer, like the moment you realize someone's declared war. Linda wasn't always like this. When she moved into Willow Grove 3 years back, she came by with a tray of brownies, all smiles, like she was auditioning for Neighbor of the Year. She just snagged a spot on the HOA board, and you could tell she loved the power, the way her voice carried at meetings, the way she'd sign her name in that neat, looping cursive on every complaint letter. At first, it was small stuff. My tractor was too loud. My compost pile smelled offensive. My gate wasn't aesthetically compliant. I brushed it off my lands, zoned agricultural, been that way since my granddad's time, long before their McMansions sprouted up. But Linda didn't stop. She wanted control, like it was her air to breathe. It got worse when I turned down her neighborhood enhancement pitch. She showed up with 2 other board members, Greg, who always looked like he'd rather be fishing, and Sarah, who'd nod along with a smile that never reached her eyes. Tom, Linda said, all syrupy, We're just asking you to swap out those soybeans along the fence for something prettier, maybe lavender or a nice hedge. It'd really boost property values." I looked at her, then at my field, the rows swaying like they were listening. "You mean stop farming?" I said, not a question. Her smile twitched. "It's about community, Tom. Appearances matter." I leaned on the gate. "I'm not in your HOA, Linda. Never was." That's when I saw a flicker in her eyes, like I'd just thrown down a gauntlet. After that, the letters came weekly. My fence was too rusty. My equipment was an eyesore. Even a stray goat I'd borrowed from a buddy got reported for disturbing the peace. Then came the rumors. Neighbors stopped buying my eggs. Kids quit waving when they biked by. Linda had started a whisper campaign, painting me as the guy dragging down their pristine suburb. I heard through Old Man Jenkins, a neighbor who still bought my beans, that she'd proposed a motion to the HOA to slap me with a city complaint called my farm a visual blight and a fire hazard. She even tried to divert HOA funds to hire a consultant to assess my land. Jenkins slipped me the meeting notes, his hands shaking like he was betraying a secret. I thanked him, but I didn't sleep that night. I never thought it had come to fire, though never thought she'd stoop to burning my field to prove a point. The morning after the blaze, I walked the north plot before dawn, the air still thick with the smell of charred soybeans. The damage was surgical, a claw-shaped burn path through 6 rows, stopped by the ditch I dug last spring. If I hadn't, the whole field might have gone, maybe the barn too. I found more canisters, same kind as the first, and scraps of white fabric, singed like the blouse Linda wore. I snapped photos, every angle, every detail, my flashlight catching the glint of melted plastic. Then I checked the footage from my backup cam, a thermal job I'd hidden in a beat-up scarecrow my nephew named Rusty Jr. at 2:07 a.m. There she was, a figure slipping through a gap in the fence, carrying a bag, crouching low, sparking flames. 12 minutes she stayed, watching it burn, then walked back to her side like it was just another Tuesday. The hoodie hid her face, but the stride, the tilt of her head, that white sleeve, it was Linda, clear as day. I didn't storm her house. I called my lawyer, Ed Carson, a grizzled ex-cop who hated bullies more than I did. "You got backups of that footage?" he asked. 3, I said. "Good," he grunted. "Don't confront her. Let the law do its job." By noon, Fire Marshal Hayes was at my gate, bagging evidence, tracing accelerant trails that started in Linda's yard. Her trash bin, conveniently unemptied due to a storm, held 2 more canisters, same brand, one with a Home Depot sticker still on it. When I knocked on her door at 3 a.m., I stood back, watching. She opened it in a white robe, hair a mess, eyes wide like a deer caught in headlights. "That's not mine," she yelled when Hayes held up a canister, loud enough for the whole street to hear. "I threw it out last week." Hayes just tilted his head, and I saw her freeze, realizing she'd slipped. The neighborhood turned quiet after that, like it was holding its breath. Linda's Lexus stayed parked, her lawn started looking shaggy, and the HOA email stopped. But the whispers didn't. A grainy clip from my scarecrow cam hit the local forum, 15 seconds of Linda crossing the fence, lighting the fire, walking away. No one could deny it was her, not with that high-stepping walk, like she was always late to her own drama. By the next day, Hayes called. The DA wanted my statement, the footage, everything. "Felony arson," he said, "plus trespassing, property destruction, maybe fraud. She's not walking away from this." I didn't cheer, just nodded, the weight of it settling in my chest like wet ash. The civil suit hit first, me against Linda and the HOA. Ed laid it out in court like a map. The harassment, the fake complaints, the fire. The judge, a no-nonsense woman named Carter, didn't blink when Linda's lawyer tried to spin it as a neighborly misunderstanding. Ed dropped the bomb. HOA meeting notes from a month back where Linda said, if we can't zone him out, we'll make his field a liability. Dry crops. No breaks it to spark away from disaster. The room gasped. Linda went still. Her lawyer stammered, hearsay, but Carter shut him down. Greg, the HOA treasurer, took the stand, nervous but steady, admitting Linda pushed for fake inspections, even funneled HOA cash to her sister for a consulting gig to pressure me. Carter ruled in my favor, $152,000 in damages, and the HOA was barred from touching my land ever again. Linda's criminal case wrapped fast. She took a plea, 18 months in minimum security, 5 years probation. Her house hit the market, then foreclosed. The HOA crumbled. Sarah quit, the president bailed, and neighbors started digging up dirt rig fees, petty fines, Linda's private beautification fund that paid for her sister's car. People started talking to me again, bringing pies, apples, even a kid with a soybean sprout in a jar, saying she'd saved it for my field to prove Linda wrong. I didn't gloat. I planted again, slow, deliberate, the soil turning soft under my hands like it was ready to forgive. That spring, as the new crop pushed through, I stood at the field's edge with Rusty, the air clean, no smoke, just earth and promise. Linda's war was over, her power burned out, but mine wasn't about winning, it was about keeping this land whole like my uncle wanted. Justice isn't loud. It's a field growing back, a community waking up, a truth nobody can bury. But here's the thing, was Linda the villain, or just a symptom of something bigger, a system that lets people like her twist rules into weapons? What do you think, was I right to fight, or should I have been to keep the peace? Drop your thoughts below. Share your own HOA horror stories. Let's talk about what justice really looks like when the smoke clears.